Sorry, I didn't realize it was a sore subject.
Is that Mr. Bean?
Divots in the gym floor. The only way Jim can pound has to be when he was a baseball coach. You did in the gym, but after that, every time we changed gym teachers, they had. Huh?
They pick the stuff up and move it.
All right, 6:30, we will get started. I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Select Board to order on Monday, April 10th, 2023 at 6:30 PM. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrant number 30, 32723, number 31, 32723. Payroll register number 13, 33023, and number 14, 4623.
Make a motion that we accept the warrants and payroll registers.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the warrants and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We're going to take the minutes separately because we had some people that weren't here. Acceptance of the meeting minutes from March 27th, 2023.
Move to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from March 27th, 2023, and I believe everybody was here for that.
Correct.
All in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. And we have meeting minutes of April 5th, the budget advisory meeting. April 5th, 2023, sorry. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the April 5th budget advisory meeting minutes. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Mr. Hagopian has abstained. Letter E, old business, selectmen's concerns from immediately preceding meeting. Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Beam?
None.
Mr. Hagopian?
None.
Mr. Wyatt? Okay. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
So in your packets, I put a draft copy of the town meeting warrant for you to review. I don't need any action on this tonight, but this includes the budget numbers that were approved by the advisory committee and the board on the April 5th meeting. It also has some of our regular ordinances in there. So I will bring it forward for approval at the next meeting so we can get the town meeting or the town report printed by the end of April. Just note that the town office will be closed on Monday in observance of Patriots Day. And April the 14th, so this Friday at 4 p.m. is the deadline for people to return nomination papers into the town. We do have people that have taken out papers for every open position, so there won't be a empty position running on the ballot, so that's a good thing. But not everybody has turned in their papers as of yet. So
People came out for the sanitary. So
they
people
did.
came
Someone
out.
came out and took out papers for this position in the sanitary district, so that's good.
Good.
And that's really all I had.
Are you gonna share the pickup, the town pickup, or do you
I'm
wanna wait
gonna
till
do
later?
that under my department head report.
All right, so I guess we'll move down one thing on the page here. New business, number one, department head reports. We have the sheriff's report, and I believe we have the fire chief's report.
That's correct.
So we'll bring on the road commissioner, please.
So, on your desk there, I put this little tally sheet. This is what I've used every week to kind of summarize some of the work that I've done under the guise of the road commissioner. And Peter Payne and I have been talking about it, so this is gonna be a beautiful week for people in town to go clean up their yards. And so the 24th of April, that's a Monday, that's when the highway crew will start. They're going around and picking up leaves and brush and so forth. And they're gonna start on the Weston Avenue part of town and try to tackle that week. And then the following week, the 1st of May, they'll be over here on the Old Point part of town. So encourage people to get that out because they only really wanna go around once. It makes it complicated if they go down your street and then as they're turning the corner, you're bringing your stuff out. So, after that is done, then we will contract with our sweeper and get our roads swept up in town, try to get all the sand off them because we are hoping that in May, June, early June at the latest, we can get our crosswalks painted. I've been in contact with the contractors to do that. Also, we've been talking a little bit, Peter and I have, about roadside mowing and getting that scheduled this year. So all these things that, catch up with you pretty quickly this time of year, we're trying to stay ahead of. Road commissioner candidates, right now we have 2 individuals that have taken out papers. Neither of those nomination papers have come back in yet. So we're all kind of hoping, especially this guy right here, that somebody brings papers back this week. Because if they don't, then you're kind of stuck with a potential write-in candidate for road commissioner. So hopefully somebody will take those papers and bring them back in. We'll know by Friday. Yeah.
Would you, with what we're going through as far as road commissioner goes, Tim, would it be beneficial to us to, instead of having an elected position, have an appointed position?
Whether that's the way the town wants to go or not, you're beyond the point to do anything now.
I'm just thinking down the road.
Yeah, the one thing that's different, and both of these individuals that I talked to that took out papers, they like the fact that what they're running for now is a 3-year term. It's not year to year anymore.
Right.
So there's that could give you a little bit of leeway to transition into something like an appointed position. But Skowhegan, after they had Mr. Dorr for years, they went to a 3-year term. The new person got elected this year, but halfway into his 3-year term, he decided to get done.
Yeah.
So it's, I think you've got the complications of the job market right now, and an elected position makes it that much more complicated.
Just
So after we get,
curious.
excuse me, so after we get to Friday, and neither person brings them back, then we can start talking about that process of going out to advertise for that, I think. Or we wait until we wait until election, we probably have to wait till election, I would say.
I don't know, because I think if no one returns papers, because we haven't changed it from elected to appointed, it still goes on the ballot
Right,
as write-in candidate here.
right. So you'd have to wait till after
So you
that.
probably have to wait till after election to see if no one took those papers out, or if someone was a write-in candidate, but they refused to take it because they were write-in, then you could
If we
work
get,
that way.
if we don't have we don't get a write-in candidate that will accept it, and we don't get people to bring them back, we will have to fill that position.
You have to appoint it, right.
Appoint that position.
Right.
And I would say it would go for the 3 years anyways.
Right,
and we
you'd
could start
appoint it for the
working on
term, right.
Right.
I think that would be fair. What I've told Trish to do is just, anybody that turns back papers in now, I don't care what you took them out for, we're gonna write road commissioner on it, so. You got that?
She's not gonna allow that to happen.
All right, so we'll see where we go.
So, if you get 3 names right in, they're gonna be the road commissioner if nobody else beat, and more than 3.
I'm assuming that's the way the
You get
election would
one.
work.
Okay,
Right, you got,
well, if you get like 3 or 4 people in line.
right,
Yeah.
you'd have a
Hopefully,
runoff, I guess.
hopefully we won't get there.
We'll figure that out. Go to ranked choice voting.
Yeah, there you go. That works good.
All right, number 2, discuss tax acquired property, 232 Bagley Road.
So in your packet, I put this map, and highlighted the property in question. So just to bring you up to speed, this is a lot on Bagley Road. It has two buildings on it, I believe. It has a house and a garage shed type building. The house has not been inhabited for years, and the garage is in some disrepair. So the quality of those structures are not very good. I'd say they're probably closer to poor. It's an 8-acre lot, but folks that live on that road will tell you that the further back you go, the wetter it gets. And so the usability of the lot is really the front half more than the back half. I have finally heard back from one of the children of the gentleman that is deceased that used to own it. And I talked with them last week. They were in a bit of a miscommunication. I think it was 2 brothers and a sister. When their father died, they did attempt to put some of the property in probate in Vermont, where they live, but this property was not put in probate, so it was not granted to any of them. So none of their names were ever assigned to the deed. We did have one son in Vermont that we were sending notices to, and I confirmed through his brother that that is where he lived and that's where he gets his mail. So at least when we were doing our due diligence, we were sending it to the right place. He also confirmed that the phone number I had that I was leaving messages on was the right phone number, but they were just not returning our calls. So in this case, I feel like the town has done their due diligence. The foreclosure date has come and gone. February 27th was the foreclosure date. And so when I talked to the individual from Vermont, he asked how much was due on the taxes. I said $5,000. His comment was, I don't think we can come up with that. So he said, would the selectmen take payments on it? And I said, no, I don't believe the selectmen would take payments on it. So in my opinion, here's my recommendation on 232 Bagley Road. I don't think the town's under any obligation to offer it back to the family in this case. They told me that they were not interested in keeping the property, they would just turn around and sell it. Because of the nature of the property and it not being improved, that would be my concern, is that it would continue to be an unusable lot if we returned it to these folks that asked about it. That plus the fact they told me on the phone they couldn't come up with the money anyhow. We're not taking loans on this stuff. When we sell town-owned or tax-acquired property, we sell it for cash. We sell it with a quitclaim deed. So on that map I made you, I identified the property owners that live around that area. And so we have some of them here tonight that are interested in this property, obviously. The board has a couple of options. You could do a sealed bid to the neighbors in the close proximity. You could advertise a sealed bid, put it in the paper for a couple of weeks so everybody that, we would say that we did our due diligence. You could, and in the past we've hired an auctioneer and we've held a public auction on the property, or you could hire a realtor. I'm not in favor of using a realtor on this property. I am never in favor of doing an auction for just one property. If we do an auction, we need to have 6 or 8 properties to make it worthwhile. So this may be a sealed bid recommendation from me on this property. So I'll turn it over to the board for questions or direction.
So the sealed bid, we would go with the people on that road or people in close proximity to that? Is that what you?
That would be up to you. I mean, I know in the past we have offered abutters an opportunity to put in a bid for it. In other pieces of property we've done that. Whether that's fair, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's really no rules per se, other than you can't make a backroom deal. You need to be as upfront as possible, but town meeting gives you, as a board, the authority to dispose of tax acquired property in the best manner, the way you see is the best manner of the town, or benefits the town.
All right. What is the pleasure? Yeah.
I guess I'm just a little confused. So, Angela Bucher, I live on the East Madison Road. I am interested in this property. So, it would be, the way that you're explaining it, Tim, it would be available to the immediate abutters before it would be available to other townspeople?
What we've done in the past is offer it to abutters first. In this case, I've identified a couple of people that are close to proximity but not exactly abutters. If you wanted to go to the next level of disclosure, then I would recommend you just simply post an advertisement in the paper and say the town is taking sealed bids on this property, identify the property, bids have to be in by this date, and the board would set a minimum bid for that. That would be a little bit more broadcast to the rest of the town, so that people like yourself that aren't abutters would have an opportunity. Mr. Gopi.
Well, Mr. Mooney is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mooney.
I think we've set a precedence, Tim, and I know what you're saying because we've been through this before. And what I'm talking about is that we have always leaned towards abutting people, and I've seen it happen more than once here, and rightfully so, to those people, come first, and then moved out, so to speak, spread out after that. But I don't know who's been interested or how many of them. I've heard, there's some that are interested, but I don't know how many of them. But I still think we've set a precedence here, and maybe we should follow up on it as close as possible, as long as it's reasonable.
Right.
Because we're not in the real estate business, and all we want to do is recover our taxes.
Mr. Gopi.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Mooney in the past, that's basically what we've done. And it's the abutters, but in this case you got just 3, right?
If you look at the abutters, as in, if you consider it across the street, so you've got 39A1, Mr. Howe, 1323D, Mr. Searoyce, 38-1 Estes, and then directly across the street, 33A, Mr. Poland. So I included Malloy and Newton in there since they were in close proximity.
Yeah, I think probably should get the easiest thing, just send them a letter, those 4 or 5 people, and the one who turns in a bid within the next, we're gonna have one in 2 weeks again, another
I would say,
meeting?
I would say we'd have to give them at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, next time we meet.
You could give them a 2-week opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Right.
they know if they want to buy it or not.
Right.
And bidding starts at 5,000, right?
I was gonna say, that's up to you, if you wanted to set a floor, but what will recoup all of our taxes is just a shade over 5,000 right now. So I'd say I wouldn't take a minimum bid below 5,000.
Okay, you know how much your taxes are on that?
Last time I checked, it was $5,001, and we've had some interest.
Okay.
That's back taxes.
That's all the back taxes, there's no town water sewer left.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna need a motion to put it out to the abutters and people on the Bagley Road.
It's up to you how far, we have extended this a little bit, and the theory is that those who live closest to this property will have the best interests of this property at heart. So that's where the town is more assured that it'll be properly taken care of. It won't fall into further disrepair. So that's part of the reason to keep it to a close cluster of people that are nearby. You know, once you start going out further and say, okay, we're gonna include all of Bagley Road and now Horsetail Hill Road and the road across the street from Bagley Road, Boardman Road, and all of that, then it further complicates what you're trying to do. Which, you know, you can solve that by just putting an ad in the paper and running it for a week and say that bids have to be in by a certain day.
Okay, I'd like to make,
Right.
I'd like to make a motion that we just do it to the abutters. And send them a letter, and they have until next selectmen's meeting to turn in the bill.
How about the Friday before? That Monday okay with you?
They can do that Monday, the 24th.
Monday the
Yeah.
24th. Yep, yeah, as soon as we give a motion, we have a second to
I'll
that.
second that.
Mr. Mooney will second that. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
It's more of a statement.
Yep.
I mean, if you put it in the newspaper and you have more interest in it, isn't there the possibility of making more money for the town than just the $5,000 that you're recouping? I mean, I know what I have a wedding business, and this is a half a mile from my wedding business. I was hoping to redo it and turn it into a bed and breakfast for the bride and groom. I mean, so I think that there are other people other than just the immediate 3 people. I don't know, I've just never heard of a property going up for sale like this, I guess.
Right, it's kind of,
And that's why, whoops.
oh,
Mr. Malloy.
Well, and that's why you guys want people from Bagley Road, because people from Bagley Road don't want businesses and all that stuff, Hank. You know, we want it to keep it country like we are. So, I've been there for 25 years, so I think I should have a little bit of say in that.
I think to respond to Mrs. Bucher's point, one, that's the town meeting authorization for the selectmen is very broad into how they can dispose of tax acquired property. The other part is, making money is not the board's first objective. The first objective is to make sure the property will be properly maintained. So, in the past, we've struggled with this with different makeups of boards, where in the past we have tried to hire realtors and try to make more money and take advantage of the market and all that stuff, and it really turns out to be more of a pain than and you end up with the same small amount of money. So.
Still go.
Yes, one year there was 2 sales on Perkins Street. One for a full house, which sold for $3,500. And the other one was down to Boston, the hill where there's a trailer still there, and that was like 1,500 or something. I mean, it isn't always get the guy out there with the gavel who's gonna sell all these houses for
Right.
$100,000 or $50,000.
Right.
You know.
All right, any other questions? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to allow abutters to bid on this,
To submit a bid,
submit a bid
by the
by the
24th.
24th of April.
and I'm assuming that you're making a motion to include a minimum bid of $5,000.
Yeah.
Minimum bid of 5,000. All right. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, although, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Malloy.
Yeah. Will we be able to, before you open the envelopes and decide, will we be able to speak that night? Or, and just, are you gonna make a decision without anyone talking about it, or, you know what I mean?
We haven't,
Is that gonna sway your decision, or do you just open it up and say, oh, highest bidder?
I would say we're just looking at the highest bidder.
Well, I was told that in the past, it's not always the highest bidder that gets it. So,
So,
actually, he told me that.
that's right, 'cause we did that,
Yeah?
we did that last year with
So-
Cindy Young's property out on Lakewood Road. We gave it to the second highest bidder because they were local, and they were almost in a butter, they were two doors down. And they're, in that case, now this is different than what we're doing tonight, in that case on Lakewood Road, we went through a Realtor and we required that that property be completely cleaned up, which was an absolute mess. And so that drove down the prices, and we got one for 11,000, 10,000, and 10,500. And the board ended up awarding it to 10,500 because they were closer and they could get it cleaned up faster. So there is that thing to consider. The way that you're structuring this motion now, if they bring it, it'll be on the agenda for the 24th. We can open the bids right here at the meeting, or I can open them ahead of time and present them to you, and then it's your decision. There's nothing that requires you in town policy to take the highest bidder. You can consider all the bids and make your decision that way.
So if we considered somebody 2 doors down, why aren't we considering everybody on Bagley Road? I mean, I think everybody on Bagley Road has to have a try at this.
So how far do you want to go? Do you want to do it within do you want to do everybody within a 1 mile radius? Because that would include Bagley Road, Boardman Road,
I would
Rosedale
do-
Road.
I say Bagley Road, but this is more.
I do.
So I'd like to speak, for my family, probably mainly for my husband. So we've lived on Bagley Road for 25 years. And we have a house that we built 13 years ago. In order to agree to build a house, we sold off half of our land, which was very upsetting to Peter. He did not want to do that, but that was part of the agreement to build the house. That property is now owned by a good friend of Peter's who is just kind of waiting for us to buy it back. And his heart and soul is in that property, he hunts there, he just loves that place. And we all do, but I mean, he's the caretaker. And so I just have to express the intense emotion that has come forward with this land. And with it occurring so quickly, we have not repurchased our abutting property, which stands in the way of us being considered abutters.
Well, we would have bought it, I mean, if it was just gonna be the abutters, as Tim and I talked, I would have bought that land last week. If it was just gonna be the abutters, but you'd said it wasn't, it was gonna be this section. So now it's spreading out even more, so, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I would literally would have bought my friend's land back. We were just kinda waiting so I could put a bid in and then, buy everything at once is what my plan is.
Right. But if we don't include the whole of Bagley Road, that, you're not gonna be in a butter here.
I would,
Are we considering
Mr.
that?
Malloy and I talked about this, and I would consider the fact that if he has a signed agreement that Mr. Howe will sell him back that property, if he's able to produce such an
I
agreement.
am, I mean, I go in to pay the taxes every,
Hold on. If you're able to produce that agreement prior to the 24th, and it's part of your bid, then you would be considered a butter. You would be considered a butter and be able to put a bid for lot 38.
Could you repeat exactly what you're saying there? We need a signed paper saying
Well, right-
that we are free to purchase land?
Right now, on paper, you're not in a butter.
Correct.
But if you had an agreement with Mr. Howe saying that he's willing to sell you that property, and you could include that in your bid, and that would make you a butter and allow you to bid on lot 38, the rental lot.
so with that being said, I'm sorry. With that being said, then would it would just be the land abutting, it wouldn't be Newton, it would just be C. Royce, Kathy and I, and Mike Pullman.
Yeah,
What you're saying?
that's who I would send the letters to, right.
Okay.
If this motion that's out there.
Yeah.
I'll go along with that.
I mean,
Did you include the Newtons in that or not?
I just put the Newton there because I knew it was a split off of Polden's property before.
Okay.
I just did that to identify that lot. I have not had any conversations with anybody in regards to that.
All right, so no further questions. Looking for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? All right, all in favor, the motion carries.
While we're on this topic of tax-acquired properties, I wanted to give you an update on 20 Park Street.
Yep.
And I believe there's a person here that has an interest in 20 Park Street, Mr. Shaw. So 20 Park Street also fell into foreclosure. There were people living there. That property had a complicated deed because the way the deed read was the estate of Alice Shaw, who passed away, I believe, in 1993. And this deed goes back to the 1970s. The estate of Alice Shaw and all her heirs. There's no other name mentioned on that deed. It's just Alice Shaw and her heirs. One of the heirs, Richard Shaw, was living there at the time and continued to live there up until about 10 years ago. And so we always sent the tax bill to his attention at this property. Well, Richard Shaw no longer lives there. He lives down in Wiscasset. And we continue to send the tax bills to his attention at this property, which had always worked, and I had been in contact with him. He was well aware the taxes were owed, but the time came and went, and the foreclosure has happened on it. What we're doing now is there were 3 people at least, maybe 5 people living at this property, and they may have had an agreement with Richard Shaw, but no rent was collected and no evictions were made. And so I talked to Richard Shaw today, and he's like, well, I was just waiting for you to evict them. So that's what we're doing. We're in the process of evicting. The sheriff's office has given the notices, and they have to be out by the 14th, which is this Friday. So because this is a house in great disrepair, because it has been a property maintenance nuisance, because it is a known drug house to the sheriff's office, it has been my recommendation to evict the people that live there, board up the house so that nobody else can get into it, and clean up the property. I was at the property today, and I took a brief walk around the back, and it's like, whew, this is going to be an adventure to clean up this property. I don't know if you've driven by 20 Park Street. It doesn't take a long drive to get an idea what it's at. Whether or not we demolish the home after it's all cleaned up on the outside, I will probably take a couple of different contractors and get their recommendations to see whether or not it's worth selling like it is, or it should be torn down. So that being said, my recommendations are we move forward in stages. 1, the eviction. 2, the cleanup of the outside and the securing of the building. When and to whom and how you want to sell it will be a question for this board at another time, but I know Mr. Shaw wanted to address the board if it was okay.
Yes, sir.
My name is Norman Shaw. I wanted to get some papers to have, bring in here, but I was unable to. I had papers at one time, but they got burnt in a fire I had back in 2003. So I was not able to get any of those duplicated. That's what I was hoping to do today, but I was not aware that this property was in foreclosure until last Thursday. And then Friday, I went in and talked to Mr. Curtis about it. When my mother, the home is in my mother's name. She passed away in '93, and everybody that knew that it was in my mother's name, and my brother was living there at the time, he initially purchased the house and then it became into my mother's name. And when my mother passed away, I talked to my brother and I allowed him to continue living there as long as he paid the taxes and the maintenance and utilities and that, but I didn't charge him any rent or anything other than that. And that went fairly well, I guess. I didn't check to see if the taxes were paid every year, but I figured that I would have known if they weren't. And then when my brother passed away in, I think it was 2011, Rick was living with him at that time, which is his son. And I told him the same thing that I told him. I said that he could live there as long as he paid the taxes, kept the place maintenance up and the utilities and that stuff. And that was fine until Thursday, when the first time I heard about it. I did not know he was 3 years behind on his taxes at all until this all surfaced. And what I wanted to do, of course I was upset because I didn't know about it, but what I wanted to do when I talked to Mr. Curtis was try to upgrade the taxes and get the property. Because when my mother passed away, everything and anything that was in her assets became mine. And that's how the house became mine, because the house was in her name. And I guess he told me that Mr. Curtis mentioned that I had to come here tonight to talk to you people about it. So I don't know if you want to know what my intentions would be, or I would like to pay the taxes and have it become my property and put my name, and so I went and clean the place up and get rid of the people that are in there and see what all had to be done. I've been through the house. I went into the house and talked to the people in there Saturday. And of course they were upset because they're being evicted, but I know what it's like to do evictions. I have to do some of them myself. But I guess that's what I'm asking, is if there's a way I can bring the taxes up, clean the place up. And I went through the house, not through the house, I went in the house, and the house is actually pretty sound. It's not, floors aren't rickety or anything like that. There's no water damage. The roof seems to be pretty good. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the house. There's some broken windows and a few things like that. But I will agree with anybody, the place does need to be cleaned up. One time when Rick first took over the place, I did go in there with equipment and clean the place up at one time. I cut a few trees down, leveled out the whole backyard and whatnot. But Rick was Kenneth's son.
That's the name I was looking for. Yeah. Ken Shaw, yes, that's the name I was looking for. Now I got it.
Yeah.
So currently this property, the taxes are about $5,000. There's almost $1,000 in sanitary district, $500 in water district, and $2,000 in MEW that hasn't been paid on this property. So there's about $8,000. We're gonna spend about $1,000 with Ken Lexier to correctly do the eviction, so we've got about $9,000 in it. And if the town were to go forward with cleaning it up to make it a sure thing that it got cleaned up the way the town wanted to get it cleaned up, that would certainly add a couple $1,000s to that. I'm not talking about demoing the house, I'm just talking about cleaning up the lot. So I don't think the board needs to take any action on this tonight because the eviction's not done. And there's the securing of the house that would need to take place. But I wanted to give Mr. Shaw an opportunity to make his case.
Mr. Moody.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw, would you pull that thing out of my face. Thank you. Were you aware of how disarray this was going as years went by? And did you have any say on who was the renters and how much the rent was being paid, and who was the rent paid to?
I did not. I had been by the place and it wasn't in as bad a shape as it is now. And I haven't been by here for probably a couple of years. I live in Skowhegan, but I wasn't concerned about the place, so I just figured that it was being taken care of. I certainly did not know he was 3 years behind on his taxes.
That's a little bit of my concern, sir, is that if this continues to go forward, we're gonna be right back into this same situation. That's just an assumption, but the past few years, it hasn't changed, and it's just getting worse, and
I was
there's,
not aware of it at all. But,
well,
I did go by it one time and I saw the portable carport that was back there, and I don't know what he did with that. I don't know. I guess he used it for storage or something.
yeah, it just appears that nobody had any concerns of what was happening over there, and I was just curious, that's all, thank you.
Well, no, but I got to apologize because you people did not know that I was the owner of the property at any time, probably until now. I did mention that to Mr. Curtis, but
We go by the deed that's registered at the county registry, and your name is not on that deed at all. And just to clarify, the Shaw property's been 3 years behind since 2011. So it's not,
2011?
that's when they started getting leaned.
that's when Kenneth passed away.
And they've been paying the minimum every year to
Okay.
stay out of foreclosure until this year.
So the person who took over managing the property basically was Ken's son?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right,
All right.
yes.
Now, you're willing to do this if you look at an $11,000, $11,000, and then you gotta fix it up.
Right. What I do right now is I refurbish mobile homes. And I do have, I'm up against time right now, because I got, the weather is breaking, I got a mobile home I gotta, before the end of the month or right after the end of the month to transfer to Southwest Harbor. And then there's another one in Canaan that has to be completed as soon as possible. But I should be able to find a day or two to go in there with some equipment and maybe a dumpster or whatever and clean the place up, make it presentable. As far as the outside of the house, it's either gonna have paint or new siding, and probably new windows. That much I do know.
And you do that, right?
Pardon me?
And you do that,
I do.
fixing up these trailers, right?
Yeah. I built my own house and my mother's house and whatnot. That's why everything that became my mother's came to me. But I'm sorry I don't have the papers that you need. And part of that is my fault. I should have, when my brother Kenneth passed away, I should have gone and had it put in my name, but I didn't think it was necessary at the time. And of course, hindsight is much better than foresight. But
Okay, my next question is, when is the eviction? Did you just start that, or is it in
They
progress?
gave them 30 days to get out on March 15th, so this week the eviction is up.
Fine.
So
And if they don't leave?
then the sheriff's office takes the next necessary steps.
All right, So we don't need to take action tonight, it's just
No,
that.
I will bring an update to you at the next meeting, because
Okay.
the eviction should be completed by then.
I think
Um,
after the eviction, we need to maybe go and take a look at this place.
Yep.
And, I mean, I think when we get to Mr. Shaw, we have to be the ones that clean it up, and he has to be the one that pays for it.
Yeah.
As far as getting stuff out of there, I mean, I'm not talking painting it or anything like that,
Right.
but getting stuff out of there, because we have to take it back to a kind of a clean state here, I would say. And, you know, I would hope that looking forward, if this goes back to you, that you get some renters in there that are gonna appreciate the place.
That makes two of us. We're on the same page there.
And we got water, we got sewer, we got electric, we got all this that's gotta be paid up, and I think getting that money back from them would work. Randy?
Well, that was my question, if you had a long-term plan for it.
Yeah, so then that's gotta be something that we can work out with Tim and,
I hope you're right, Mr. Chairman, but I still have a concern, this has been going on for 12 years, and there's been no progress. And I'm kind of, anyways, that's my statement.
well, I think we got some time to, we're not gonna do anything with it
Right.
in the next couple of weeks, so let's see how things move forward here in the next couple of weeks.
I do have to apologize for you guys not knowing about me.
Yep.
That-
I didn't know Ken though, so.
Well, that's not a good thing always.
It was fun. Thank you.
The family was on the same page as you were with him.
Yeah. No, he's fine, no.
I grew
didn't
up
say
with him,
anything.
and it was the same all the way.
Yeah.
It never changed.
Thank you, guys.
All right, number 3, discuss a contract with Somerset Public Health Space at Old Point Facility.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, last week, we met with some folks from Somerset Public Health. Mrs. Dwyer and Mr. Moody were there, and so was John Harlow, who works in this building. And the discussion was had about, would the board be willing to authorize Somerset Public Health to lease space in this building to offer resources to people dealing with substance abuse issues. I thought it was a good meeting. I thought it was a good idea to involve some members of the board, just to clarify that this would not be like something controversial like a needle exchange situation, but this would be a situation where people could come, and really not just people that are suffering from substance abuse issues, but their loved ones could come and get resources. And so we were talking about utilizing this room right across the hall here. That's used one day a week by Maine General right now for WIC services. And Somerset Public Health would be interested in utilizing that space one day a week for their services as well.
We need a motion.
If the board is willing, I'd like to get a motion to authorize me to enter into a contract with them.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Second? All right, a motion and a second to enter into a contract with Somerset Public Health. Mr. Gopi.
No needles, nothing like that, right? No medication, nothing?
No.
The only thing they'll bring with them that would be available to people is Narcan, which is currently available at drugstores.
With a prescription?
No, don't need a
No, it's over
prescription.
the counter.
Right.
Over the counter?
Narcan is becoming much more prevalent, and the use of it is becoming, and they provide training, which is the other thing that they expressed. So,
Moody.
I think to give you a better concept of this is, this is a good program, and the reason I say this is a good program, this program isn't just set up to treat people that use drugs. You have a lot of family members that want to do something for their loved ones. They don't know where to go. These people can give them direction along with helping them along with the program. There is nothing here as far as needles or they're not doing any treatments. It's all verbal. These people are counselors, they're well-trained, they're well-educated, and I think this is a good starting point. I hope the rest of the state would get into this, at least this much, if not stronger, and anything I think that a town can do to support and benefit these people that are willing to have a program like this, I think it's well that we support them.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Mr. Gopian?
Yes, so I'm reading this part here about they're not gonna provide any drugs or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay, Narcans are out? Those Narcans, whatever they breathe in, those things are not gonna be used here?
They will have those with them, yes. But I mean, you can go down to the drugstore and get it. These people
What's
will
that
educate you.
Skowhegan?
Yeah, these people will educate you if you do not know anything about them. If you are concerned about a loved one that's on drugs and want to know about using Narcan to maybe save a life, this is what this program is all about. It's not all about issuing drugs or counseling. It's all about helping these people for the next step of getting clean and educating. Biggest thing is they're educating those loved ones that have people in these bad situations.
The Narcan isn't, I'm sorry, the Narcan isn't going to be, they're not gonna be, getting someone giving Narcan here. They're gonna show people, train these people how to
Right.
use it, when they need it, and they will provide it for them. I agree with Mr. Moody, it's a good program, they've opened my eyes to what's really going on out there, and it's really scary.
They spend a couple hours
Very
here
scary,
with
yeah.
us.
And it was a good thing.
Mr. Gopian?
Yes, I don't have a problem with the program, okay, that's fine with me, no problem. But I have a problem if they're gonna bring in the Narcan, I have a problem with that. If they're gonna use them for training, that's okay, that's fine. But handing out, no, let them go and get it over the counter. They obviously can't get over the counter here in Madison, so they gotta go to Skowhegan.
That's probably the reason we need it.
Well, if you get trained to use the Narcan, the purpose of it is to save somebody's life, okay, if they're overdosing. So I took it that you could, after you got trained from Somerset Public Health, that you were, if you wanted to have Narcan available to you, they would issue it to you. They've trained you how to use it, so you can save somebody who's overdosing. And I don't know why they wouldn't have it here after they've trained you how to use it, so that you could take some home with you. I mean, I'm just saying, that's how I would
That's
use it.
exactly what they.
Yes.
All right. Relax.
So, as working at Circle K, I have noticed this is something this town really needs. The amount of people who I've seen come into Irving's full on anything they can get on is remarkably sad. At least about 6 times a day, I see people who just loopy all over the place, wobbling. One guy just reached in his pocket and pulled out crack right in front of everyone, and then started asking people if they wanted it. So we need some kind of drug prevention in this town.
Thank you, Doug.
So.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? 4 in favor, opposed? 1 opposed, Mr. Gopian's opposed. All right, select board concerns, Mr. Moody,
None, sir.
Mr. Bean, Mr. Gopian,
None.
Mrs. Dwyer.
No, I'm all set, thank you.
I don't have a concern, but the only thing I'd like to say is the Easter egg hunt on Saturday was outstanding. A lot of people in town. We should send a letter to Tobin and his crew to thank them for bringing that many people to town. I don't know where all those people came from, but they might be out there somewhere. But I think if you can put a letter together just thanking him for organizing something of that caliber. I mean, there were a lot of people, and
And it was cold.
it was cold, and there was a lot of eggs, and a lot. I mean, I think they had 12,000 eggs.
Yeah, 13, so we'll get up to 13,000.
I don't know if we need any more than that, the buckets were pretty full, but it was awesome, so I would like us as the board to send him a letter just thanking him and thanking his church for putting that forward. I have no other concerns, citizens' concerns. Citizens' concerns? Yes, sir.
I don't know if I'm in the right place to really talk about this, because it's kind of more of a worldly thing, but it's gonna affect here very
Yep.
soon, I believe.
You just could identify yourself?
My name's Aaron Bridges.
What was it?
So,
What was the name again?
Aaron Bridges.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys pay attention to kind of world news, what's been going on lately, but a couple things are kind of concerning that I feel like are gonna affect here in the next couple of years. Are you people familiar with de-dollarization? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, so what's going on in the world is China, Mexico, Russia, and all those countries are starting to get away from the dollar. What makes the dollar powerful across the world is 70% of the world uses the dollar. Well, that's starting to change. So we're going to see massive inflation here in the next couple of years. I was just wondering if there was any ideas on how to battle that here, because I've lived all over the United States. I'm from Bingham originally. Grew up in Skowhegan some, but I've been all over, and I've seen small towns all over, and they're getting worse everywhere. Every time I come back, they're worse. Every time I leave, you know, like it's really concerning. So with the inflation that's going to come, it's going to create a lot of problems in the area. And also, last night, I don't know if anybody noticed this, China was doing military exercises around Taiwan. Well, between what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on in China, chances are we're probably going to get into a big war here pretty soon. I know these things are big problems and whatever, but they do have some trickle-down effect, and especially when I believe Hannaford in town is owned by a Chinese company, if I'm not mistaken, or does business with a Chinese company, as well as Jimmy's is connected to that as well. And on the other side of that, you got Walmart, which is a major corporation, which is they're all going to push prices up way high. Is there any ideas on how to kind of maybe control that some in the area, or no?
So it'll be on my scope.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't really know who to talk to about this, because I feel like there's things we could do. I have some ideas, but
I would say
like I think everybody's kind of overlooking the bigger picture here and not realizing, because with the pandemic, things happen quick, right? And the world's changing at a faster pace, especially with technology and everything. And I feel like this is going to be something that if we don't start looking at now, in like 5 years and 10 years, you think it's bad here now with the way things are with drugs and the way things are with everything, you know, prices and everything. If we don't start making steps to accommodate some of these problems, we're going to have big issues down the road in 5 to 10 years.
Maybe start with our state representatives?
I'd be glad to talk with you.
I would love to, because I think the problem with going to the state representatives, and I think you guys know this more than anybody, when the tax money goes, where does it go? Does it go here, or does it go down to the south of Maine, where everybody, you know what I mean, like?
It's coming in here pretty good right now.
Well, right now it is.
We're gonna take it.
But I'm just saying, like, normally,
Yeah.
I think this is more, I understand it's like a global problem, but I think there's more we can do kind of in our area to kind of bubble the effects. You understand what I'm saying?
Tim said he would like, or Tom Angie said he'd
I would love to have a talk with you, and not just here, it's not just here I want to talk to, I'm actually going to the Anson Town meeting tomorrow, and I want to bring this up too, because I feel like these kind of things get overlooked by people, because everybody focuses on their day-to-day, and is not looking at the world around them and see what's going to happen and what's going to come in the next 5 to 10 years, so. Like I said, I didn't know if this was the right place to come or not.
I would start with him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looking for motion to adjourn?
Move.
All right, a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Adjourn at 7:28.